Well, it is the second Monday in February, and as always, we are pleased to have the Lunch and Learn session with the state inspector for the mechanical division. That's Tony Woodard and myself, Tom Hunt, with the Arkansas HVACR Association. It seems like there is a never-ending series of things that we need to learn about. One thing's for sure, I think the longer we're all in the heating and air conditioning world, the more we realize that we don't know. There's always something new to learn. Tony, welcome to another Lunch and Learn.
Well, good morning, Tom. How you doing?
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. What's it like over there at Labor and Licensing today?
It is hectic,
As always, huh?
but it's fun.
Well, today we're going to be talking about kitchen venting, and there's a lot of this that we've already covered. And guys, y'all may notice that from time to time, it seems like we are repetitious, and that's true. But this particular time, we're going to hit on some things that you probably already know and we've talked about, but then we're going to talk about access. You'll notice that the title of our session today is Kitchen Venting Access. Well, let's see what we need to do to get our access correct. First off, we know there's some obvious things. You don't discharge into an attic and you don't discharge into a crawl space. Those are things that we all know. Tony, pick up on 501.3.
Yeah, and going just to relate on that attic and crawl space. So ICC removed the term attic. It's not even in their definitions anymore.
Huh.
So they don't want any, attics just no more anymore, even though that's where we put our equipment. But yeah, the exhaust discharge, it has to go out, not to cause a public nuisance or disrupt anything. And the poor heat and air contractor, if electricians worry about, can I electrocute somebody or burn the house down? Well, poor heat and air folks, you can suffocate somebody. You can put carbon monoxide poison on somebody. You could burn their house down. You could electrocute somebody. There's several things. You could develop Legionella, cystic. I mean, all these things that we install. Heat and air guys are just, I'm just heating. No, unfortunately, you're the wide gamut of anything that can create a problem in your home, and exhausting certain products and certain fumes and bad things out of the home is part of our problem, or part of our project that we do as mechanical.
Right. Okay, this is something, that, again, I always try to put myself in the mindset of somebody who's not read the code and not really had a good mentor. And that is, well, if I get it up into the attic and I get it close to one of these turbines, well, it's going to go right on up.
Okay. So now we go to I just told you all that other. How many of us remember science? So now you're going to be the meteorologist. So what does a low front do? So that barometric pressure. So, or as my grandpa taught me as a young man, when you lit a fire, you're burning leaves and you see that smoke traveling right straight across the ground, he would go, boys, it's going to rain in the next 24 hours. That pressure, that low front, if we have a low front and it does this into the home, this is what's going to happen. Those things are not going to exhaust out. And we do have situations with storms and fronts coming in, and that's what's created this. You've got to get that vented to the outdoors. That's why ICC removed the term attic. Everything is to outdoors. You'll see it in installation instructions now.
Well, I guess I say this too often, I guess. I feel sorry for the old boy who went to work for somebody, got him a couple of years worth of experience, lucked out and passed his test. Now he's got him a license, which means he knows everything. And he goes out there and does things that today just seem like they made sense. And he doesn't understand why there's all these codes. Well, this is a perfect example of how, again, I know what I might do if I didn't have a good mentor, which raises the subject of why it's important, even when you're in business for yourself, to have a good mentor that you can call and be willing to be stupid to, who will give you some advice.
Hey, I'm the dumbest of all in this industry, but I'm very. I will ask a question. I want to know.
Yeah.
But man, when you've got some good pictures on this, Tom, that one and this one, there is a lot going on in that small little space right there. That is a lot. So that could be attic ventilation. course, that could be kitchen exhaust and dryer or bath exhaust right over there. But that's a good picture there because the environmental air now requires that to be 3 foot from the operable window. So if we give the contractor benefit of the doubt here and go to the middle of that window where you open it up, I would give him this 3 foot there. I would, as an inspector, I would pass that. That's getting the 3 foot.
This was one of the things, the reason we got off on this. Had a contractor talk to me about how hard it was to get that pipe on that kitchen exhaust straight down above where the pipe coming out of the exhaust was and not use some flex. But the code says what?
Code says it's metal all the way. And that's from the IBC, IRC mechanical code. These are fire issues, fire related. So that's why anytime one like that happens, it's getting pit. So there's a code we'll probably get to next for the builder in the IRC code book itself. I do love this illustration though. The eddy currents, I would really like to send us. I believe there's going to be a lot more eddy currents than what they're showing in that flex illustration. But that is a good example. And I do want to try to keep this slide to use for, everything else. But that is where it is. You can build, look, this is going into a cabinet type configuration. What do they put on cabinets? Doors. They can put access panels that you can just punch the door with a magnet, it'll come open. If they don't want a handle or the hinges are recessed, there's no reason to be saying there's no way to put an access. And I've had builders do that. I'm like, well, we want this decorative shroud. We'll build panels that come out. But that's where I've seen it. They try to build a decorative deal and then pinch it. And then how do you get in there without pulling it all the way down and all that?
We'll go to, we've been talking about flex for these 3 slides, and we now understand that flex is not going to meet code.
It's not.
You're going to get grease if you do any frying on that stove. And if you're in Arkansas, you're going to do some frying on that stove.
And if you think, if it's not just grease, if you do not think that vent's going to get lint in it, dust, lint that's going to build up over time. Now, that is a combustible product that you've put inside of that thing. The more corrugated areas you have, the more you get, the more it'll collect. What they have proven, ICC even did this at Louisville, the smoother line pipe over a 10-year time frame collected a lot less amount versus a 1-year corrugated flexible. That was, and that's they're doing, things can happen in a home. We can't control that, but this deal here, they don't want it to burn out of the side and go through. They want that metal, that non-combustible metal to go all the way through that assembly up there.
I just threw this one in because
I like that. That's more than likely from where it's located. That's a bath exhaust. But I like this picture for the fact that this is what we as state inspectors see out in the field all the time. Now, this is a flex connector, not flex duct. And we've always had the 6.411. We've always had the code. The maximum flex connector is 14 feet.
Yeah.
So this will come in a 40-foot box or 30-foot, whatever, and they'll run it all the way. So legal here was a picture of where the hard pipe comes up. That doesn't look like they've got bad insulation in there. I see it laying down.
Yeah.
Then you get hard pipe and turn and give them hard pipe and then terminate with 14 foot, but he's getting to the limit over there on that one. That's close. I'd have to get up there and measure it. But
this picture came from the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, and it was part of what they were using talking about kitchen venting.
Yeah.
So they really were probably scratching their head on why anybody would do something like this for a kitchen vent. Now, here's the one you were talking about, Tony, about having access.
Yes, sir. That's the compartment. There's the code. That's the reference in chapter 13, 14, 15. 15 gets exclusive about terminating of exhaust in residential homes, but there's your access component of your appliance in your residential building code. And it's giving you wherever you're putting that appliance. And let me let you know, a model and serial number is an appliance. So that can be a little humidistat fan you put somewhere in the attic for attic control. That can be, if it's got a model and serial number on, that's appliance. So you got to have access to it. Even a cord plug, if you decide to put your own humidistat, some type of thing. Humidistat control blower. These little attic fans and so
Well,
forth.
here's a picture of what you were talking about a while ago. And I just had to replace the vent in my house, and there was no access to it. Absolutely. We got a beautiful shroud, no access to it. So they pulled the vent hood down,
Yep.
and down with it came this metal pipe. It had been installed where it was supposed to, but they had to have a guy in the attic and a guy down below slowly lowering it down, and then had to connect it correctly. And I told him, don't use any flex.
Yeah.
So he did it right, and then he had to push it back up. So he had a couple of lengths of pipe he was having to push back up. Of course, to do that, they had to disconnect everything in the attic. It was a job.
It was a job. And that appliance has to have access. It is an appliance that needs access. Bath fans. You drop the bath fan grill down to get in there and replace the blower motor, whatever. So if you can just drop that, but to hook this up, you have to have your access to meet that part, to hook it up, to ensure that if you need to take it out, pull it off, so forth.
So a while ago, you were talking about this being able to open
That
up.
could be a push. Yeah, I mean, what they're doing, they're building them permanent. But that
Yeah.
could be designed to be a push apparatus. And they're cabinet people. The one, they're like, come on, you're cabinet folks.
Well, thank you. Why is it that our industry always seems to have to be responsible for everything that everybody else is supposed to be doing? And the monkey comes back on us when we say, but the code says.
Right. Well, that's why I have invited I have invited them to train. We'll help them educate, because that is their code. Now, it falls on the mechanical guy, and this is why, because he's the one getting paid. If he backs them and does it, he's afraid, I'm going to lose this business. I don't want to lose this business. This guy's doing 100 houses a year. That's my bread and butter. Well, then help us educate the builder to provide you access. I just left one today. The homeowner was adamant. Complaint didn't. Now we're talking a high-end house, and in the center it was a vaulted deal, and the filter grill's way up there in the sky. Well, ACA Manual D says you got to have one on every level. So a level is 8 to 10 foot. Once you exceed that, you're not in your level. Once you get up to that one, you don't have a level. Now, homeowner was adamant. I don't want that down here. I want it way up there. Now they've got problems. So this is where the builder, okay, try to educate the contractor as well, but it's the same. We've got to get the education out to the consumer and the builder same time. But
yeah, we need to have a session just on what you were just talking about how ridiculous it is to think that people are going to be able to change the filters down the road when they're 12 feet up in the air. It just irritates me to think about it. All right, now here's just a drawing of one more time, but a little bit, nicer setup. Yep. But this area right here could be fixed up to where it was just like you're talking about. You can open this up right here and have access to that. You just have to think about it.
Right, we do, and we have to get them to give the mechanical contractor the room to do this. Now, there is another reason they put these. When we went to the 2021 and matched up, they met with them, said, "Okay, builder, it's in your code. If your frame member or your guy framing your deal wants to install this, he doesn't have to have a mechanical license to do so, but he will meet the code as far as access. He could, they could run the duct and then they could hook it up. Heat and air guy could put on pros. We're doing the heat and air. Y'all fix this." Then we would hold the builder or whoever did that accountable to the code. As far as that gets to be an interesting area where we might bring somebody to board on a fine, is not necessarily fining them for not having the license, but fining them for not meeting the code or going back and correcting it in the timely manner to meet the code.
Well, follow-up service is just as important as the installation service is. And we got to think in terms of how people are going to be able to maintain what we installed. Now, I threw this in here to say there's all these various places that if you want to do commercial kitchens, you need to just jump in there and get as smart as you can be, or hire somebody who knows what they're doing.
Absolutely, because you can add. There's another Bible that goes with this, and that Bible is NFPA 96.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. There's you need to know what you're doing in vent hoods. Believe it or not, my education in this field started at 14 on a vent hood. My dad had built a nursing home, and I was not the book smart when I wanted to learn, and I got my education on vent hoods, and then moved over into the mechanical side, actually lift stations and everything else. But yeah, I've got the old hard knocks a lot of times failing to learn about vent hoods.
Well,
there's a lot to it.
Again, I fall back on what I consider good guys who are trying to make a living for their families and thinking this is going to be a good way to do it. They do a house for somebody, and those people are needing some help with their restaurant, and ask them, would you come? And of course, they say, oh, yeah, I could do that. Well, just get in there and read 506, 507, 8, and 9 and ask yourself, do I really know how to do all this?
There's a lot to it. There's a lot. It's I set this now. We kind of got these guys that do this, like refrigeration. It's kind of like their little world in the mechanical side, refrigeration in their side, and HVAC. I mean, they kind of got their own little niche over there.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, Tony, I appreciate your time today. As always, I thank everybody over there at the Department of Labor and Licensing for being kind enough to let us share your time. If you got questions or compliments or complaints about Lunch and Learn or anything that's going on our HVACR program, call 501-682-9201. That's still the right number, Tony?
Yes, sir. Mr. Langley. Yes, sir.
So call him and find out, and you'll know what to do. If you don't understand it, somebody will explain it to you. We are so fortunate that we have such a good relationship between the industry and the regulatory body for our industry. That doesn't exist everywhere. And so we're very, very fortunate. And part of that's because we've got people who've been in every level of our industry before they became, in like Tony's case, the chief inspector for the state. Tony, thanks a whole bunch. I look forward to seeing you next month.
All right. I do want to add one thing that we're on here. We're not fully on ELP, but we do have the digital complaint up and running now on our website. So, and you can go there and fill it out. Get it online, fill it out, and send it in, and it'll get dispersed, and we will get on top. It sped things up. So we have that up and running now. Instead of reaching out to Michael, you just go to our website, labor.arkansas.gov, fill it out. It'll get dispersed to me, and we'll get somebody on as quick as we can.
I guess to wrap it up, I want to go back to that guy who was a really good fellow here in Central Arkansas who had the question about, do I really have to have access to that vent hood? And the answer to him is what, Tony?
Absolutely.
Absolutely
have to. And it's ready access. So no tools. Ready access is handle, door, push. That's ready access. Now that is in the code with a definition to explain access versus ready access.
Okay. Tony, thanks a bunch. We'll see you next month.
Okay.
Thank y'all. We'll talk to you next month. Bye now.